the last election I want to talk about is Mississippi. Mississippi has been a very, very interesting election season here. We have a guy named Brandon Presley, who is, yes, related to Elvis Presley, who is Elvis Presley's second cousin, running a very, very good Bashir-esque campaign. Stayed away from the cultural issues, stayed away from the partisanship, and really ran on expanding Medicaid. He touted how expanding Medicaid would actually save the state money, how it would help so many people, and just really good populist messaging. He was running against incumbent governor Tate Reeves. Tate Reeves looks like Peter Griffin and is one of the worst fucking guys. Okay, not gonna hold back on him.
Yeah,
Tate Reeves is very corrupt. His party apparatus was caught funneling $77 million worth of welfare money. This is from the Temporary Assistance of Needy Families Fund that's given to the state by the federal government. And between 2017 and 2020, they funneled $77 million of this money into other development pet projects that were not for the needy families. One of the very famous ones is they gave a lot of money to Brett Favre to build a girls' volleyball arena. So that's a whole other thing. Mm-hmm. And so this was really a very weak incumbent with Tate Reeves. Brandon Presley really had a good opportunity to take him down, as much as you can have a good opportunity as a Democrat coming in from Mississippi. But the polling was kind of indicative of a close race, and a close race is what we got. Brandon Presley did lose, but Brandon Presley did get closer to beating Tate Reeves than Daniel Cameron came within beating Bashir in Kentucky. So that was Mississippi was a closer race than Kentucky, which is a really good sign. I do have an issue with this election, though, and I think it's important to call it out when we see it, because this happens far too often in America. This election showed a lot of civil right and voting right issues, especially in the black communities in Mississippi, specifically the city of Jackson. So the city of Jackson is in Hinds County. Hinds County is 8% of the total population of Mississippi, a massive population center. And each of these polling locations had about 60% of the registered voters in that precinct, enough ballots for 60% of the registered voters in that precinct. They were running out of ballots extremely fast. So I'm going to read here from a news article on the topic here. State statutes require that the county has enough ballots to accommodate 60% of a precinct's voter base. Hinds County Election Commissioner said voter turnout has been so high they have surpassed that percentage, forcing them to print more ballots and deliver them to the precincts that have run out. They couldn't estimate how many precincts ran out of ballots because calls have been coming in to the Hinds County Election Commission all day from polling managers asking for more ballots. So here's just a few examples. We have one library that ran out of ballots at 6:45. We have another Baptist church that ran out of ballots at around 7 o'clock, 6:45. We have a city hall that ran out of ballots, another Methodist church that ran out of ballots at 3 p.m. We have Northern Baptist Church that were down to 100 ballots and have ran out of ballots 3 times throughout the day. Another church ran out of ballots, another church ran out of ballots, and a YMCA only had 100 ballots left and were given no estimated time on more arrivals. This is insane to me that these counties are having trouble just getting ballots to people who have been waiting there for some reports of 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
It's wrong, dude.
I think the statute of only having 60% of, like, ballots for 60% of the precinct's voters is extremely flawed.
Extremely flawed.
Right? I mean, I guess maybe this is the lesson. Like maybe they just now learned it, that we need more than that.
Yeah.
I guess I understand not wanting to waste paper. I also just think voting should be much more electronic. Like, we are really 100 years behind with the voting technology that we have. It's tough because I assume we're going to be one of the only places. We're going to be the only thing I see that covers this.
Oh yeah, sure.
Right. So there's going to be no impetus for change because it's going to get very little attention.
Mm-hmm. And look, I don't want to say this is like totally the statewide Republicans' fault, because it's like the counties do run their own elections. So maybe they could have had more ballots. But the fact of the matter is the precincts only need to have 60% of the ballots to fall in line with the statute. The statute's obviously flawed because 60% was too low of a number. And while the lines were accumulating at these polling centers, a judge ordered that the voting had to be open for another hour. And Republicans sued immediately, trying to stop that from being allowed, and tried to close the polls while there were still a bunch of people waiting online.
Yeah.
Which is just gross behavior.
But it's a typical Republican Party tactic.
That's a typical move.
We've talked about this many times on this show. Part of their playbook is suppressing voters, right? Which is entirely undemocratic, extremely slimy, just kind of detestable thing to do in a democracy. But it's not unexpected.
Not unexpected. And it sucks. It sucks because, like, you watch Andy Beshear's victory speech, first thing he says is, you know, I want to pay teachers more. You look at a Brandon Presley speech, the main thing he's talking about is cutting the grocery tax, cutting the car tax or something.
Expanding Medicaid.
And expanding Medicaid, which is huge. Tate Reeves comes out in his victory speech, and the first thing he says is like, no one thought I could do it, but here I am. And it's like, God, fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
Fuck you.